Hello and welcome to the Paper Prototypes podcast. I'm your host, Rex, and here I have my guest, Stephen Harmon, with his game Griptape Backbone. Stephen, why don't you tell me a little bit about your game and what inspired you to make it?
Well, Griptape Backbone is actually kind of an older game. I think I released it in 2017, so it's been quite a few years now.
Oh boy.
But I was in high school and I was really into like existential literature, like Albert Camus, like The Stranger, the Sisyphus, as well as like just different sort of like philosophers out there. And I don't know. I think part of me just wanted to make something like a skateboarding game that appealed to my sense of music and vaporwave, as well as just like existential philosophy and sort of like I don't know, coping with graduating. It kind of felt like graduating high school kind of felt like a almost uh, transitionary period, and I sort of use that metaphor of like life and death and purgatory as sort of the same, graduating high school, sort of, figuring out life and what's next, and I don't know, like just having a fresh start, I guess, and so that was my I don't know way of coming to terms with all that.
Would you say so? One thing about your game I've noticed is there's like a skeleton that talks about like being trapped forever, and I guess a lot of times, at least when I think of purgatory, I think of something that's just stasis where it doesn't end. Would you say that when you made the game, you felt like it was a transition, but into like almost oblivion?
I suppose so. I mean, I didn't really know what to expect going into college. And I was just sort of, I don't know. It felt like leaving behind everything I knew in terms of going 1,000 miles away, where I knew really no one and had no family or friends, there, and so it was definitely just like a not really knowing where I'm going in life, but still being open to it. Kind of it's becoming in terms of it's all sort of all coming to a point and ending. And I don't know. I think for the skeleton, it was like I think I'm trying to remember what exactly he said, but like souls have an expiration date, and I think that is sort of my own personal philosophy with like life and death, right? Like if life lasted forever, you would be depressed. Like I think that's a big sort of like I don't know thing with like vampires in media and stuff, where they like are really sad because they've like experienced so much life, but like that there's like they've lost the allure to it, or it's gotten stale. I think like the same thing happens if, let's say, you have like an infinite amount of cupcakes, or you own a cupcake factory or something. You're no longer probably gonna like cupcakes like in terms of eating them, as as you would if you just casually have them once in a while. So I think the same thing goes for life.
So, what game design decisions did you make to try to exemplify those feelings? Because I picked up on quite a bit of that with the I found Sisyphus rolling up the boulder. There's, I think, Aristotle, the giant face of him in the background, and lots of just really existential phrases. Like a big theme I think I picked up on is almost like the death of art, if that makes any sense. I mean, it's kind of, I guess, right there in the game with the giant words "art is dead." Hard to miss.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really like a. I don't even know if it's design decisions more rather than just like aesthetic ones. Like I think vaporwave as an art as a genre of music is very was all because of attribution art. Like all of vaporwave is just 80s music, or like city pop or whatever, slowed down, and added some reverb or maybe some like mixing, but really it's just other people's work, with a little bit of a twist. And so I think, but I mean, it's still very fresh and new, and introduces the piece to like a new generation of people. So I think, I guess like art never really dies. It's just one of those, like it just changes, and people don't really die either. There's just they're always in your memory, or like whether or if you believe in like spiritual stuff, it's just like it's sort of nothing's ever gone forever. It's just out there, in a different form, I guess.
Do you think people have picked up that interpretation? Well, do you think people's interpretations are what you expected when they played your game?
I don't really care about people's interpretations. They can, it's like that's the thing with art. Like I didn't even have like that much of a like I don't know, like I mean, yes, I made every asset and like put everything in place everything myself. But like it's not super like intentional. Like it is intentional, but like to a certain extent, like I just want to make something that a place that I enjoyed spending time in. I think that's the case for a lot of developers. And whether people take certain messages away from that or not, it doesn't really make a difference. Like it's all valid or it's all not valid. Like it, like I don't really. I think with Griptape, it was very open ended. Whereas to like my other games in high school, like Awkward Dimensions, I made a developer commentary because I felt like I was getting misconstrued or attacked for things that like were not the case without the right context. So I think and that was my mistake as like a very junior, young indie developer. And so I think Grip Tape was more of just like take whatever you want from it. It's just don't take it that seriously.
That's kind of the vibe I got. Like at least my interpretation when I played the game, I thought it was a commentary on art itself. But the vibe was essentially just don't look too deep into it because the minute you start to, it all fades away.
Yeah, I mean, you could get deep into it if you want. Like I've definitely like have had in place like probably 100 different like little inside jokes or illusions or whatever. I mean, there's plenty of things to look at, but for people who want to get that sort of experience out of it. But otherwise, if you just want to skate around and collect things mindlessly to sort of turn your brain off and enjoy music, like that's fine.
What were some Easter eggs that you particularly liked? Like my favorite was I loved finding the the really silly like jokes that was scattered everywhere with slash music. Like if you jack off in a plane, is it considered hijacking slash music plays?
Yeah, I mean those slash music plays. Like if anyone's not familiar, if you go to like Vectroid's music in the comments section, or like in vaporwave music videos, sometimes you'll hear like slash music plays, or you'll see that comment pop up a lot. And basically, I just decided to like kind of copy and paste like all those jokes, and put them in the game because I thought that was hilarious. And then as far as like other inside jokes or um, like the historical marker is a literal marker. Like I don't know if you've gone on a road trip or something and seen the signs that say historical marker coming up. But it was literally a giant marker. I thought that was pretty stupid but funny. I don't know. Like there's a lot of random things that like even next to the historical marker, there's like a mountain, right? It's very small, but it kind of looks like potatoes. And there was a mountain called Potato Mountain in like New Mexico, in this small town called Raton, New Mexico, and it's I don't know, it's like super random, but like I just put it in there. I was like, it's a mountain that looks like potatoes, gonna put it in there.
I
Um,
also loved how you made the moon have like a notification icon. I was like, I don't know why that is a vibe, but I'm here for it.
I don't know. I mean, it's like a Facebook thing. I mean, the sky. I had like probably like a dozen skyboxes, and you may or may not have even seen all of them. That kind of trigger when you go explore random places or like random nooks and crannies. And I like hand created a lot of them. And I don't know. They're just random. Like I don't think too hard about it. It was just me kind of like having fun. I don't really have a whole lot of like attention with those. But as far as like other Easter eggs, I really enjoyed putting in there. I think the angst was really fun.
Oh,
There's these like
it's like a crate and it just has a bunch of things running around called angst in it.
yeah, there's like personified angst with legs and arms. And if you like open the door and like unlock the latch, they follow you. And the thing about it is they like don't despawn or die or anything. They follow you forever. Um, and so it's you can try to lose them for a little bit, but once you sort of open that the floodgates of that angst, you can never go back, I guess. And I think that's also kind of a metaphor for like life. Like once you kind of go through your teens or whatever, and you kind of get angsty, like that angst never goes away in adulthood. You just sort of learn to live with it in the background noise. So I don't know. I think that was my little like personification of that.
Why don't you tell me about the intro? Because I thought that was when I downloaded the game and it cut to like almost like a VHS recording tutorial of like someone actually skateboarding, I was like, this is gonna be a fun game.
Yeah, I think I really like full motion video. Like FMV games were a big part of me growing up. I don't know if like you played many of them on the computer. I mean, not everyone was like a PC gamer, so those games weren't popular for everyone. But I don't know. I kind of want to like keep that in a lot of my games, whether it just be like a real live action cutscene or something. 'Cause it's fun. It's fun to like record little cutscenes instead of having to animate them by hand.
I
Um,
imagine it's easier.
yeah, it also saves a lot of time. Uh, but yeah, I don't know. I thought it was fun to like push Mongo just to actually infuriate real skaters. And I mean the game it's like a wrapper. Like I think having a very loose game and then having a cutscene in the beginning and the end to sort of wrap it together like a bow on a present is very important for a game this abstract. Like the game starts with you getting in a skating accident and then dying basically. Um, and then the game, ends. I mean, I don't want to spoil it, but it ends the aftermath of that, right? And so I wanted to sort of have something rewarding in sort of some context other than this is just a cool vaporwavy indie game. I wanted to have some story to it. So yeah, I think being able to do the bare minimum, just start and end, and then the middle is just the gameplay is enough.
Yeah, it reminds me of I just had a mental blank. Totally. I haven't played too many games like this. I would say it's. I'll be honest. Sometimes a lot of games about, or not games, but just art in general that's very abstract. Because it's so abstract, it's hard for me to like get meaning from it. My mind almost just blanks out. But that's kind of like great about like a skateboarding game is you can just go along and do whatever you want and just chill out and you don't have to think too deeply, and then when you come across something you do want to think about, you can take the time to explore it.
Exactly. I mean, I think, and when you do find that thing that you want to look at for longer, and you hit the break button, and then you realize like there's way more to the break button than the meets the eye. I think that's the that's like the sort of little discoveries I want people to make. Otherwise, if people just want to skate around and they never actually break ever, and they never find the extra side of the game, then that's perfectly fine. In fact, I don't expect anyone to collect all the collectibles. I don't expect anyone to visit all the little landmarks and NPCs or anything. Or it's more of just a nice place to spend time in. I hope it brings some solace to people who just need to de-stress or sort of meditate in their own way, assisted wise. Just to just to sort of enjoy and relax.
Are you big into skateboarding yourself?
Yeah, I skateboarded a lot for the past 4 years. I guess 5 years maybe, but uh, I haven't really skateboarded this past year just because I've been busy with work. When I had a job, but I think that was I don't know. In LA, it's sort of the mecca of skateboarding, so this sidewalks are really nice in terms of pavement. And whereas to now I'm in Colorado, and a lot of the sidewalks have a lot of erosion, and like they're not very like I could there's so many bumps and cracks that like in potholes that it just would be impossible to really skate on a sidewalk unless you had like ginormous wheels or something. And so I don't really skate as much anymore in Colorado. But when I was in LA, I skated all the time.
I fell in love with longboarding when I was at my campus, and then I had to move for various extenuating circumstances back home, and I live on a dirt road. You can't really
Mm.
skateboard on just straight up dirt road and gravel, so it's been a while for me to longboard too. But it was fun to go back to this game and just feel like it was 2 a.m. I couldn't sleep, and so I just go use the bong and then go out on the longboard around campus and see what I could find. That's kind of what I felt. Was just recapturing those moments when I was able to be on my longboard and just be free in um, this like city-esque because my college is absolutely huge, so it was really fun just skateboarding around, and that's kind of my favorite part I think of your game so far.
No, I've had plenty of similar experiences in life, so I definitely wanted to capture that. And a big part of that was like trying to get the audio right in terms of like having good air sort of sound effects when you're like in the air and you're falling down, or like what it means to like skate and have the wind sort of pass by you, or when you land it feels good, or I don't know, just like little sort of details. I don't know how to describe it any better than that, but just trying to get that sort of sense of cruising around.
Are you happy with how the game controls looking back? Because I understand this is a 5-year-old game.
Yeah, I mean, I was a high schooler. Like my ability to program and script was like very minimal, and also like I'm no expert at physics or anything. I was trying to write my own, and it was really gross. But like, the fact that like I was able to get that done is kind of a miracle. Like at that, like I'm surprised I even made it at all. And I honestly like people complain a lot about like the control scheme, like oh why isn't it WASD or something? And I tried that and it was awful. And so I think having it be with the mouse, it was not a bad idea, and it also like kind of reinforces you only have to play the game with one hand. And I think that's more of an accessibility thing that I wanted to push for. I think most first-person games should have that option. And I don't know, like you're just it's something that you can play with when you're like lean back in a chair and your like legs are up or something in a very shrimp-like fashion. I think making a game that you can sort of just really kick back and relax to is was better than having a game that's really reactive to you. And I don't know. I think like in terms of like when I tried to make a gamepad support for it, and I had the Steam controller support. That was actually, I think, the best way to play the game when I added official support for that, because the Steam controller has these like touch pads, and usually people hate them, but like when you have it with this game, it actually works really well, kind of like in a skate fashion, the EA skate. So it felt really good playing it with like the Steam controller.
Would you say having more reactive controls that would have made the game, I guess, less laid back? Is what you're trying to say?
I mean, I think people would have been focused on more of the doing tricks and getting, like it would be more about the tricks rather than just cruising and sort of skating as like a pastime rather than. I mean, it's more. I think there's two different sort of camps, like skate as a sport and skate as like a pastime lifestyle. And there's plenty of games that sort of represent the sport aspect of it, but there's not many games that sort of like represent I don't know, like the soul of skateboarding, I guess, or like I don't know, that's the reason why people like skateboard, but they don't necessarily go pro or whatever. Like just people who just skate for their own enjoyment. Um,
I understand that completely because sometimes I can't. Skateboarding games haven't appealed to me too much because a lot of times it's like you have 30 seconds to score 200,000 points, and that's just not for me is what I liked about skateboarding, because I had a longboard, and for me it was just about cruising and just going either as fast as possible or just enjoying being able to just take turns and just cruising.
yeah, and just seeing like the surroundings, like sort of, almost like your field of view goes into like a tunnel vision, and you sort of like notice that like everything. And I've actually changed the FOV based off of like how fast you're going and stuff, but like feeling that level of like speed and feeling that level of like parallax when things are going by you, it's a really nice experience. So I don't know, I didn't really want to like add any stress to that experience at all, or like any stakes or like any and I think that also kind of ties in with the whole like this is sort of an afterlife, or like this is sort of this limbo, right? It's not meant to be this place that you're judged at all. It's morally meant just to there's no you're already dead, like there's nothing to prove.
That's fair. Is there anything you'd change now that you've had 5 years of development time between this game and now?
Like about myself, the game,
oh
or
the
like...
game, I mean both, if you think you can
I don't
have
know.
an interesting answer.
I think this game, I've always wanted to go back and like remaster it, or like make a sequel. I think I definitely wanted to make it for mobile, like make a mobile port of this game.
Oh,
because I feel like the control scheme would be very fun with the gyroscope or something, and or like other just touchscreen stuff. But I feel like it just have a very casual game that you can sort of enjoy on a subway or something for like a few minutes, hop off, pick up back up later. It doesn't really matter. I think that's sort of a thing I want to make eventually. And I started at one point or another in college, but I never like really put much time into it. Uh, but I mean, that's always a little thing of mine I wanted to do. Otherwise, I guess the next thing would be trying to represent other genres of music through the game. So I really enjoy not just vaporwave and city pop and stuff, which was mostly what this game had as a soundtrack, but also I think it'd be nice to have I don't know, like bossa nova or some other types of music. World music would be kind of cool. I mean, I'm really big into rhythm games, so probably representing like sound through mechanics, like actually recognizing the spectrum data and like visualizing the audio data, kind of like how Beat Hazard or Audio Surf does it in a cool, interesting way. Just sort of like up that, I don't know, just like experience, make it more engaging.
Would you say music's been a big part of your life? Because I notice if I go to including music from, there's a name that pops up that seems familiar. I don't know if you know him. His name's Stephen Harmon here.
Yeah, I composed one song just because I was like, I should. Um, but it's like composed as in like I literally kit bash like three songs together, and that's that. It isn't really. It's just aperture reaching out at the end of the day. But yeah, I mean, I think personally, I find it impossible to focus or work without music. Um, like I know it's kind of weird, but like I can get into like really, um, like my attention span is like I either have a really hard time starting a task or something, but then like I can if I once I start or something and I have music with it, I'm able to work basically nonstop until someone stops me or like some other outside thing pulls me away from it, which is both good and bad for like not eating or drinking. Like it's, but like that's the reason why I did okay in college, is because I kind of figured it out. But like, um, yeah, I think so. Music for me is just like I couldn't function as a human without it. Um,
I totally relate both to having uncomfortable things happening when I was younger in middle school and using music as a way to cope, but also just I have ADHD, so if I don't have something happening, whether I'm physically moving my hands or just having music in the background, just something to like tune into when my brain starts to wander, then I'm not focusing on shit.
oh, exactly. Yeah, it's. I mean, I don't know. Music is like not just from that standpoint. I mean, it inspires me a lot. I think like I don't think any other medium really affects me the way music does. And so I hope I could try to at least like share that love or at least expose people to music I enjoy through my games and hopefully give them some free publicity. So that's the main reason why I like enjoy collaborating with musicians, is just because like I want to get their music out there.
Would you say that contributes heavily? Okay, better question. What inspired the aesthetic of the game? Did you have that in mind, or did you listen to a soundtrack and go, I know the picture that I want to paint based on this music?
Oh, it's like I even for Awkward, my other game I made in high school, and games I've made since then, I've always like started with the music first, before I did anything else. Like I would like I people mood board with like images, I mood board with like Spotify playlists or something. Like, I like, or even like when I actually work with musicians directly who are like composing things directly for the game, like unique tracks and stuff. I basically let them run wild, and like then I'll make the game or like the level to that song, or like I'll make a part of the level, or like for Griptape, for instance, like some of the skyboxes or whatever were very much inspired by like the album art from some of these albums, or like all of in fact all of the game, like all of the aesthetics, like all of the ramps, half pipes, everything. Um, Probably existed at one point or another, or at least looks kind of like in the same vein of one of the album covers of these songs.
I think my favorite ramp was the one that the side of it was painted like the Japanese style of like the old like samurai esque art. So it was like that wave. I don't know how to describe it badly,
Oh no,
but
I know
that's
exactly what you're talking about. That was I'm trying to remember the name of it, but uh, yeah, I'm trying to think what the artwork it's called like the Great Wave or something. It was the Kanagawa, I think, or no, it was yeah, it's like Hokusai or something. I forgot who was the original artist of that, but yeah, I just wanted to like bring that in there. I think there's a lot of like sort of East Asian aesthetic in like vaporwave. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because of like the commercialism of the '80s and like Japan's technology in terms of like you had Walkmans and stuff. Or I don't know. I think that's probably why vaporwave is like I don't know. A lot of vaporwave music videos even have like a lot of old ads for like Pepsi or who knows what, but a lot of them are like Japanese ads. I don't really know why. That's something you could probably ask like Young Bay or something,
so I
or
heard.
like
Um,
Saint Pepsi. But
I heard that cyberpunk particularly got intertwined with a lot of Japanese aesthetics, partially because in the '80s it looked like there was going to be like a technological takeover from Japan, at least in the manufacturing side. So they envisioned partially a world that was taken over by Japanese technology, but also I've heard criticisms that that might be slightly racist because of its depiction that they used it because Japan was something that was seen as like something that was like foreign and scary. But I also have a T-shirts that are literally just Japanese words on them, and only Japanese scripts can get away with that. Because if I just walked around with a shirt that said, I don't know, like bark on it, no one would care. But I put it in the Japanese characters, and suddenly it looks cool.
yeah, I mean, I think there's a certain level of like calligraphy is an art. I think whether it be like Japanese or Chinese or whatever. It's really these characters are gorgeous, right? And there's a lot of artistry that comes to depicting them in various styles. Like there's so many different like forms of calligraphy in terms of like running style or more sort of rigid ones. But like so I think that's why it's pretty. That's why you can put it on a T-shirt or have it as a tattoo. But I think there is a certain level of like where's the line between cultural appreciation and appropriation or even fetishization? um, and I don't know. I don't think I'm qualified to answer that. If I offend people by including it, I don't know. I just put it in there because it's part of vaporwave as an aesthetic or as a culture, and so that's why it's in there, and not for like any other reason. Um, but yeah, as far as why I guess I guess like the Asian aesthetic is like a popular thing in cyberpunk or vaporwave or any of those sort of uh, art movements is kind of something that I'm not even 100% sure why. Yeah, I feel like there's a good video essay to watch there.
I feel like what I said came from one, and I have no idea where the source was anymore, so I can't even be confident about that anymore. Um, but uh, so this game it's very aesthetic driven. So what do you mean by? Because let me see if I can grab a quote from the game. Uh, collecting aesthetics to reach enlightenment. What were you thinking when you wrote that line?
Um, so I don't know. Again, the game's really tongue in cheek. Like I don't like it makes fun of vaporwave as much as it does there's different types of vaporwave. There's like the music genre, and then there's the like meme of vaporwave. And I think like both are equally valid. So I don't know. I think like just the aesthetic and like how people sort of bolden and like italicize and have like different spaced like typeface. I don't know. It's just like that sort of emphasis on the word aesthetic alone, and like how it could take on so many meanings. I think that's sort of what I was just joking. It really doesn't. There's not a whole lot to that.
I
And
have
then as far as enlightenment, it's sort of like the goal. I think games like need some sort of like for like from a level design standpoint or like a flow standpoint. They need some sort of sense of direction, especially if they're sort of like open ended. And so they need like weenies or collectibles to sort of drive people to explore. Otherwise, they may just sort of take things very slow or very carefully. And so just letting people know that there's like 5,000 collectibles and you only need like 1,000 or whatever to complete this experience. And that's sort of like where I kind of let people know, okay, you've collected this many, you can go home now. Like it's been an hour. Like live your rest of your life, have your rest of your day. Like, I don't know. That's sort of how I want. That's the reason why I had the whole goal in mind in the first place was to lead players as well as let players know like, hey, you can stop playing now. Like, don't get into too deep of a flow state.
I sometimes I kind of like it when a game rewards me for collecting, but it also goes, "Hey, the point isn't to collect." Like I like. Have you played Breath of the Wild?
Oh, I love Breath of the Wild. I played it throughout quarantine this past, not this year, but the year before, and it was fantastic.
Do you know what the reward is if you get all of the Deku Nuts?
I don't know what Deku Nuts are. Are those like the Korok seeds or
Yeah,
whatever?
that's what I
Or...
meant. The Korok seeds. I don't know why I said Deku Nuts.
Yeah, I don't really know, but I don't really plan to play the game that much to find out.
It
I beat
is.
all the Lionels and I did all the shrines for the most part. I think I'm good on that
It's
front.
called. You get something called Hestu's Gift, and it's basically a golden shit. Like
Oh,
the
that's
game.
great.
The game's like, dude, you wasted your time. There was no point in doing this.
I see. I was very. That was like one of the things I was thinking about doing for the game, but I didn't want to be mean. So I actually had like a very heartfelt, personal, like sort of ending to the game, where you get to see because when you die, like your life flashes before your eyes. So I figured, you can have my life flash before your eyes, um, and I feel like that's sort of the best I can give someone in terms of like their time and effort. But otherwise, I was thinking of having some sort of like it was like sort of like some sort of like secret Sisyphus achievement or ending or whatever, where it was like, and then it just like resets to zero or something. Um, but that would have been fucked up.
I felt that. It's like when I found out the achievement for getting all the stars in Mario Galaxy was you play as Luigi now, do it again, bitch. I'm like, no, I'm not. Hell no.
Yeah,
So
I don't know. It's not about the rewards. It's about the intrinsic enjoyment of playing the game. I'm really against having like achievements. It's really annoying to have that pop up like break the flow of their game or just like it's like annoying ad or something. It's just get it out of my way. Like
now that you say that, I feel like there would be a great game about like as a satire of commercialization or capitalism where the achievements are just ads.
you know, I mean, eventually, I am working on a project that might actually be a thing. That's kind of funny that you say that. So I won't go into it because it's not really my own company's project. It's a contract job thing,
Okay.
but I am working on a project where that may actually be a gag.
I love when achievements are meta. I love how in the Stanley Parable, one of the achievements is don't play the game for 7 years.
Yeah, I wonder if I can just log back in if I get that.
I think so too. Mostly because I was satisfied with it. Something that's been really bothering me about games a lot is just this constant stretching of them. So the ability to just get a complete experience and be like, I'm done. Which is weird because as a high schooler who was broke, all I wanted was games that lasted forever. But now as an adult where I have limited time, that's not at all what I want.
I think games definitely fit the form factor. Like, I mean, arcade games, like old ones, were so hard because it was just designed to get people to pay as much as possible, in terms of like quarters. So that's where that sort of design philosophy came in. And now people are trying to replicate it with like Dark Souls or different sort of hard games. Um, but it's more of a nostalgia thing than anything. But I think to really, I mean, it's sad because a lot of games, like single player games, are kind of in danger. A lot of big companies don't want to take the risk, and so they're only going to want to fund or publish games that have you know, a live platform service built into them, like a way to monetize consistently and retain players over a long period of time. And you know, if no one wants to make the game that you just buy once and then enjoy and you're done, or let alone make a free game that people can just enjoy for an hour or two and then leave and have enjoyed their time. It's very much like a you're only going to get that from indie people in the future, I think. Which is not a bad thing. I think honestly, lately, like the big campaigns and stuff, big single player games have been kind of just bland. So I don't think we're losing much there, but
I agree with the sentiment. Especially where they keep trying to stretch IPs. Like I personally didn't play the newest Star Wars game, the Dark Souls, the Last Jedi, but now they're making
that's off of it.
they're making a TV show based off the main character, and I'm like, why are we doing this? Didn't everyone think that he was the worst aspect of the game?
I mean, again, I'm not like against transmedia. I mean, I love Star Wars. Like, I love Star Wars. I like, I can't, even if it's like not even good. I'll take it. I'll take whatever I can get. So I'm not really like against having more media in that universe. But yeah, I played that Star Wars game. I think it was called like, no, it wasn't Force Awakens. It was something else. But I just bounced off of it. I didn't really like it. It felt kind of slow. But then again, that was probably because it was coming from Sifu, and Sifu was like one of the best fighting games of the year. Uh, so I just felt like very spoiled and I don't know, disappointed in the pacing of that combat.
That's fair. I jumped from Mountain Blade, which had I'm not gonna say realistic medieval combat, but you have to swing in different directions and block in the correct direction to parry enemy attacks. And then I went to Skyrim, where you swing your sword like a baseball bat infinite times, and I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the best games are like Dark Messiah, where they actually have you like legitimately think about how to parry based off of like it's almost like a rock paper scissors game, but like a little bit more complicated. I think that's a more fun like engagement loop rather than just like clicking more than the other person clicks until one of their HPs is down. Because at that point the game becomes a spreadsheet, and I don't think it's very enjoyable. So I think thinking about like the mechanics as what are they actually translating to, physically speaking, or like what children's game are they translating to, and is that a fun game? I don't know. That's how I think about mechanics.
Some people love min maxing. I have a roommate that loves that kind of stuff. I mean, how would you feel if you found out someone had a spreadsheet to get like the best time to collect every single aesthetic in your game?
I would say they play the game wrong, but good for them, I guess. Like,
No hesitation, just straight up incorrect, sir.
yeah, like I mean, well, no, I mean there is again. I said there is no incorrect way to engage with something, but like I would be surprised if they like because that at that point they're enjoying this excel more than they're enjoying the game. At least that's what it feels like as the artist.
I do. I love. Have you seen where they make devs watch speedruns of their games?
Yeah, I mean some people sped run Griptape. I will say I'm faster than all of them. Like, but it's not. That's because I made the game.
That's fair.
So like like the dev is usually going to be faster than the player, unless it's like a game like I don't know, unless it's like a big game like an open world or something, where it's like so many people have touched the game that like no one person can know everything,
Yeah.
and so that's when you have like players actually like breaking it apart and finding ridiculous exploits and stuff. But for the most part, if it's a small indie game, like I think the developer's always gonna like just know the most optimal routes and stuff because they're the ones that placed everything.
I can't remember which video it was. It might have been the Outer Worlds, but they found someone who was able to like glitch their way past like a whole chunk of the game, and like it made their speedrun so much faster. And the devs were just like, "Why would you do that? I worked so hard on those cutscenes."
I mean, again, that's not like I think that's if that's their way of playing or engaging with that game, that's fine. Everyone has there's like the Bartles taxonomy of player types, right? And everyone has their own sort of archetype that they kind of lean towards. I mean, for me, I'm more of an explorer and an adventurer or whatever. I forgot what the actual classification is, but like I enjoy the exploration bit of just like taking things in. Or like engaging socially with other people. But I don't necessarily enjoy like dominating others or winning war, any of those sort of objectives, or like I don't get much dopamine from that. I rather just enjoy a laid back thing.
Would you say so? I guess with how you interact with art, so you're saying that no one can play a game wrong. I would ask. Is that your philosophy?
Yeah,
I would say.
I think there is no wrong way to play a game. I joke that like yes, you're playing the game wrong, but no, there is no wrong way to play a game. Like I think that goes especially for people who like have different needs ability wise, like disabilities. Like they'll need any assistance, and they should get any assistance they need to be able to play the game on their level, right? Like that's why I'm all for like making better difficulty options, or like different like visual toggles, or even like adding a skip button to awkward dimensions. Like if you don't like the level, then you don't need to play the level. I'm not forcing you to engage with this. Like like it's only there to stress you out or not stress you out as much as you feel the need. Like it's I'm not. I don't also want to like have hold like a save file over someone's head or whatever. Or, like have some sort of timer that like you have to race the clock against. Or I want things to be very much like you can come and leave. You have your own life. I respect you as a human. Like like I'm not gonna have you sign back in my game to get a reward for loyalty or something. Like that's stupid.
I'm guessing you're not an MMO fan then.
I love MMOs. I really do. But that's because I like socializing with other people. Not because of the methods of like their monetization or like their Skinner boxes.
How? So you've obviously put a lot of yourself into this game. Um, do you regret any of that, or would you have wanted to put even more of yourself in the game?
I mean, I don't know how much I can hold myself out anymore. I feel like I've been very an open book throughout all my games. uh, I mean, I've made 75 games to this point, I think.
Wow.
Throughout, like even throughout college, I made a lot of personal games, and so like if you really wanted to know like how I was doing at any given point in my life, just play the game I was making at that point. I think you'll kind of get a good sense of what was going on.
It's
Whether it be like relationship stuff or just like I don't know work stress stuff or whatever. I mean, like I use my games as an outlet to sort of express myself and vent. And so I don't know. I feel like there's no more I can. I think I've ran out of things to talk about. At least by myself for the most part. Not completely, but there. I mean, I think there's. Now I'm at the point where I want to help people tell their own stories. And so that's what I'm doing, or that's what I have been doing for the past year or two, and preserving legacies and sort of memorializing people through games. That's sort of like what I'm doing right now. But yeah, I mean, I think games are a really good sort of time capsule into feelings, into experiences that you wouldn't really get through many other mediums. Like you can't really be in someone's shoes, but I think games are the closest you can get to that.
And how do you think games accomplish this? Because if I go to your website, I can see the tagline, ultimately, I just want to help people, and games are the way I can reach the most with the greatest impact.
Yeah, games are like pretty popular. Like they're a bigger industry than film, TV, music combined in terms of money. We're just talking about like how many people engage with it on a day-to-day basis or on a minute-to-minute basis. And so I think like it's really I mean obviously like there's so many games being released nowadays, like it's become very accessible to make games, but still I think I would have an easier ability to like get out there and like get my work in front of people than if I were like an independent musician like putting things on SoundCloud for them just to like collect dust. Like I think it's a lot easier to like get recognized and get I don't know, just your work out there because games are really still hard to make. And so like there is still a level of less supply, and there's still a lot more demand um, comparatively to other mediums, I think.
Do you get frustrated with the fact that games take a lot longer as a medium to create versus other art forms? So I imagine since video games utilize music and 3D modeling and coding, it would be easier just to specialize in one, like let's say music.
Yeah, I mean, people have specializations. I personally don't, just because I mean, honestly, games don't have to take a long time to make. If you're looking at my website, if you look at the games tab, like there's recently for the past like maybe 2 years. I mean, I've done this for probably longer than that, but like I haven't kept track of it until like the past 2 years. But I've been making games for my friends, and family and stuff for like birthdays, Christmas. I don't know, just to tell them I love them, like whatever, like just like I make games now more like I haven't really made games that often lately just for myself, but more for other people. And I think that's like, they don't have to take me a whole long time. I can take like probably an afternoon to make a quick one or something. Um, but just like I think it's special. I think it's more special than having someone write you a song or draw you a painting because I mean while those can take a long time too, I think the just the amount of sheer effort that has to go into making a game, and you're making it something for someone that they know and it's like only things that they understand, or like inside jokes or something, is incredibly special, and is the best gift I think I can give someone, and it honestly is the best experience I think for me right now is just like that brings me joy. Just to bring someone else joy, that I know, and I think it has bigger impact in terms of like the more specific it is. Like I made Griptape for everyone. I made Griptape for me, but like I made Griptape to sort of be enjoyed by a broad audience. Or as to making a game for a specific person for that only for that person. It's a very different. It almost multiplies in terms of like how intense of a reaction that is. And I never want to let that go. I want to keep on doing that, for basically everyone in my life that's special to me.
So are those the types of games you want to make going forward, or are there any other types of games you'd like to make?
Oh, I mean, I love to make random shit. Like I want to make a game about cooking your own placenta sometime. Like I want to
Oh,
make like
dude.
like I want to make a bunch of weird games, right? But it's like I think there's like that doesn't have to be either or. I can just whenever I have time for.
I'm
Whatever I'm feeling
still
in the moment, however much I need to afford rent, it depend kind of influences what I'll be working on.
I'm still reeling from that sentence. That came so out of fucking left field. Why do you want to make that? What is your inspiration for that concept?
Well, I really like Rachel Ray. The cooking TV show,
Yeah.
with like the Italian lady. So I love cooking shows, or like Jacques Pepin, Fast Food My Way. I love cooking shows. And I love things that make people uncomfortable, and I think placenta is one of them. And so I think there's a winning combo there. And if I don't make it, someone eventually will. So might as well be the one to make it. I don't believe in original ideas. Like if someone steals an idea, like if someone watches this interview and just decides to make it, cool. Like I have 100 other ideas. Like it's not. It's just one of those like once an idea is out there, like someone thinks of it, I think it's already like a ubiquitous like someone else is gonna do it if you don't do it. So might as well do it. Like
I think that's kind of the great thing about art. I mean, I know it's a quote from, I believe, Isaac Newton, but it's like, I'm only here because I stood on the shoulders of giants. Like, I only know what I know about game design and what I can make because of the media that I have consumed. Which is also great because one thing that I think helps uh, me deal with my existential dread about something like death is the idea that I can leave something behind that gets added to that cycle of like self-consumption that comes with media. That someone can view something that I make and then they'll influence them, and I'll almost like live forever in a weird way.
yeah, I mean that's everyone wants a legacy. although I've made like 75 things now, so I think I have a pretty nice imprint on the worlds of games, even if it's small. Um, and so I don't, I think now I'm actually thinking of it in a different way, where it's like I I want direct impact on things that matter. I mean, creativity matters, inspiration matters, making people feel less alone. All the reasons why I said on my website, like all of that matters. Art can do a lot for someone. It can start revolutions. It can do a lot of things, but I want to like solve practical, real world problems too. And I don't think I get that through making games, which kind of uh, isn't, like I don't know. I just want to help like a small business, figure out their stuff, or like I want to help, I want to like, solve some sort of miniature like climate crisis or like sort of natural disaster recovery thing or with big data. Or, like part of me wants to like do a very boring job that's like actually helpful for someone. Um, but creating art is helpful and it means something. But when you do so much of it as a full time job slash like career, it definitely it doesn't hit the same way. And so yeah, I don't know where I was going with this. I'm kind of uh, tangent going into a tangent, but
With how your relationship changed with art, going back to your game Griptape, especially with the themes of art being dead, would you have now a different interpretation of how you feel going back to your old game with how you feel now based on your new relationship with media?
um, I'm not really sure. Like so you're just asking about like my relationship to Grip Tape, like as a whole,
Yeah,
or
would if you were to come into and play the game now, would you get a new interpretation of that you made because of how your relationship with art changed?
I mean, I think if you don't cringe at your old self, even just a little bit, then you haven't really grown at all. But I think cringe also, it's not just cringe though. I think it's also like there's a certain level of admiration and respect, and self-love that kind of also happens that needs to happen, when you look back at your own work and like, uh, I don't know. Like I think if I met my teenage self, I don't know. I mean, I think he would be proud of me, and I'm proud of him. Obviously, I know that sounds weird, but like I think it's a very healthy mindset to have uh, when looking back on your own work. But not like thinking like, oh, this is the best thing, and there's nothing wrong with it. Like I think the more you look at it, the more you realize like just how broken it was. But then again, you see all you start to just respect all the great things that did work for it, and you kind of take those lessons and move it on to the next project.
Do you
Uh,
think you'll
yeah.
experience cringe or self love when you go to revisit the Harambe Memorial?
Oh, self love for sure. Like well, not every year, but like like I think a year ago, the 20th of May, I had another vigil. I got another cork board, like not a cork board, but like the little like poster board for like science fairs. I printed out a bunch of pictures of Harambe, and I sort of like drew and painted on it and stuff, and made a little vigil. I had some candlelight, invited some friends over. Outside of course, it's still a pandemic, but I had another little vigil. So I still sort of you know like and it's like I don't even know if I'm doing it ironically anymore. Like I actually it's hard to say if you're doing it as a joke anymore when you've committed to it for so long.
There is. Are you familiar with the YouTuber Zero Punctuation, also known as Yahtzee?
He's the guy that just like gets really angry about games, right? Like he
Yeah, he
he
speaks
just
really
tries to
fast.
describe.
The background
Yeah,
is all yellow.
yeah. I know those videos. It's been a while
He
since I've watched one of them.
wrote a book called Jam that I read. It was very stupid. It was about the entire world was flooded with man-eating jam. Um, but there's like a cult, and the whole like criticism of the cult is if you do it ironically long enough, it's no longer ironic, which was just a really funny message in the middle of that book.
No, it's true. Like I've gotten into so many things as a joke and then actually ended up loving them. Like for one, I have my own toilet blog, and so I started this like research paper on toilets and games as sort of a joke. and then I got really serious with it and like put way too much effort into it, and then eventually I kept on doing it. I kept on writing papers, and then I like made a website, and then I made the website again from scratch, and like, uh, and eventually I think when I have time, I'm gonna write more papers on it, and I'm gonna turn it into a book. Um, but like it started as a joke, and now like I actually wholeheartedly love toilets and researching about toilets and thinking about like what toilets means culturally, and like like the impact it has on our lives. uh I don't know, like I think there's a certain level of sincerity when I mean that comes with anything though. Just people rub off on people, things rub off on you, whether you want it to or not. Like I hate that I like The Bachelorette. It's one of those things that like your sister watches or your mom watches, and you're just like, ha, I'll watch this as a joke and make fun of it, and then you end up like staying there for like the whole season. Um, so I don't know. It's
I understand. My girlfriend got me to watch a K drama, and now I'm like unironically invested in like this
oh, is it
show.
Attorney Woo?
Yeah, it's Attorney Woo.
Oh, it's so good. I love that. I love that show.
I did not expect it to be as good as it is, but it's so cheesy and over dramatic, and I love it so much. It's so
K dramas honestly like they're all like that. I mean not all of them. There's some horror ones too. I mean K dramas are just dramas, right? Like they could be other. It's just TV. It's Korean TV, but like I think Korean like K dramas are like the best form of TV. Like I think they have like they know what they're doing. They know how to pull your heartstrings in just the right ways to make you feel all the good feelings or all the like you're at the edge of your seat because you like care about these very beautiful people. So I don't know. I I love K drama. It's man. I need to make a game that's inspired by it or something someday because I love that genre. Also Bollywood I recently got into, and like man that is like the last form of like true Hollywood films. Like I feel like all movies deserve at least three musical numbers.
I couldn't. They also put on RRR, which has been blowing up on Netflix, and I couldn't do it. I just there was like a fight scene where like all the British are just casually walking in an open field being shot by one guy with a rifle, and I'm just dying on the inside. Like this is so stupid.
Okay, but like it commits to it where you can't really like I can't like criticize that movie because everyone puts so much effort and you can tell they're like acting their heart out, with all seriousness, and like it's I don't know like I and even like the visual effects as crazy and outlandish as they are, like one of the guys like fucking grips a motorcycle one-handed and throws it at another guy, like, and and they're not like superheroes or anything, but like they basically are like superhuman. uh I still love it. Like I love every moment of it, because it's like it's sincere. I feel like you don't get that with most media nowadays. It's very much driven by the algorithm. What will certain audiences or demographics like? What can we have? What can we censor? What it's but it's so overthought. Whereas so that movie was like it was you could tell there was creative direction behind it. Whether or not their bold choices made sense, they made sense to the actors and the team, and everyone kind of fully fledged went behind it and committed to it. And I respect that. Like I don't know, I enjoyed it. I had a good time. That
I one of
movie's
the
fantastic.
one of the harshest lessons I've had to learn about just media criticism and I guess media enjoyment is to learn the difference between something that's we could argue is bad and something that's just not for you. Um, and I feel like that show is just not for me. Oh, mostly, and this is going to be the nerdiest thing ever. There sometimes if you know something like if you're a scientist and you see how the science is being portrayed, you cringe. I love military history, and so sometimes
Mhm.
I'm just cringing on the inside, or because I've done IT work, when I see like the shows where they're like we're hacking in, I'm like I can't. I'm just in physical pain. I don't even know what
Oh,
the show was, but they're like we got into the hard drive and he pulls out a power supply, and I just turned off the TV. I'm like nope, I can't. We're not doing this one today.
oh, I agree wholeheartedly. I get it. Like I had a really hard time watching Space Jam, like the new one, because it had like it was about game development and it had, like, none of that. It's just like the worst stereotypes and like oh god, like misconceptions and Like they did not even bother to consult with anyone remotely involved with like computers or art or any. Just it was, oh god, it was so bad. I mean that movie was just bad for a whole myriad of reasons, and I can say that because I worked on it. Like I
Wait,
legitimately was an
what?
artist on that movie. So I can criticize all I want. It's a bad movie, and I worked on it, and it's partially bad because of me. Not the writing, but like, but like,
Wait,
but,
how did you end up
but like,
working on that movie? What?
it was a mocap studio called House of Moves, and I worked on that movie
Oh,
as like a
that's
contractor. But like, but like in general, like you know that movie was objectively bad. But like I think RRR isn't for everyone. Although I would hope it could be. I don't know. I really enjoyed that movie. Like there's something about it that just like I think I judge a movie on whether it makes me laugh or cry or like emote at all. Um, like I think that's how I judge art is like how much does it evoke? You know, like how much is it like how much emotion does it get out of me? How like, does it make me feel anything? And if it doesn't make me feel anything, then I don't like it.
the worst sin a media can create is to leave me feeling nothing. Um, I'm not a big movie guy. I can barely sit still, and I don't have the tools and understanding of cinematography to properly critique a film. But it's hard for me to describe why I love the jankiness of something like JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, but then I'm just so bored as to when I go to watch like a Marvel movie. Like there's something about the genuineness of whatever the fuck Araki came up with in the stand fights that made me adore it. No matter how silly those fights become, while just the corporate grayness of the backgrounds in every single Marvel film feels so the same that I'm so blown out I just can't be bothered to care anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a certain level. I mean, I forgot who said it. There's a quote. This is a quote. It's not from me, and I'm gonna paraphrase it. But like, the most appealing part of any medium is like the jank. It is what like people would consider is broken about it is what actually people like. Um, and I think that applies to games especially. Like for example, you know, people like on TikTok or YouTube or whatever, or Instagram Reels, like they're making videos making fun of like Fallout NPCs or like Skyrim NPCs. Like,
It's the best.
although I feel bad for that one because I think that guy like murdered his wife or
Oh
something.
Jesus.
Um, yeah, that was like a dark story. So I'm like, every time I watch this, I'm like, God, I hope that doesn't happen again. But like, they make sort of these like spoof videos where they like commit to the bit of like, oh, you know, like this like NPC like does a 180 and like smoothly like lerps to your looking at you or something like on straight on or this like the brokenness of the dialogue or like the animation not being very high fidelity or anything like I don't know just like the jankness of those games whether it be ragdoll physics or whatever but like that's what people love about those games. It feels like at home even, and I feel like the more we advance technology, the better we get with like, you know, attaining realism or obtaining that like level of like craft, where it's like too realistic or something. You lose the genuineness of like, you know, the finer moments of comedy or like I don't know it's just the slapstick you don't you miss the magic moments that make games that you can only have in games like at that point it's I don't know it's not abstracted enough to be considered a game too much
I think that's why I love personally like video games that try to push the envelope because they'll inevitably have jank somewhere in the line.
Oh,
Um,
exactly. I wish I could go back to Cyberpunk's before the patches because I played launch day, and it was gold. It was hilarious. Like things are blowing up left and right. NPCs were like flying in the sky, or some like everywhere you looked, something was broken, and I loved that. Like the game was unplayable. Like I got stuck. I had to reset my save file. It was fantastic. I just it's a travesty you can't like revert back to a certain like revision of the game.
but is there a line between like because I love jank when it's like genuine, when there's like, I love like indie games and indie movies on like YouTube, because like I love the feeling of being like a struggling artist just trying to make what you can, mostly because I can relate to it the most. But which is why I like New Vegas, because it felt like so genuine. But then when I played Fallout 4, all I could see was like the corporate structure that led to the jank. Does that
No,
bother you at all?
exactly. It got softened around the edges, so it's a more like less ambitious, more scope project. I mean, like if you look at the dialogue in Fallout 4, it's you have four options and they're all basically the same. You have your sarcastic response, you have your nice response, you have your sort of neutral, whatever. Like you know, it's you have four responses rather than like actual dialogue choices that are all different that like, allow you to express yourself in more nuanced ways. And so it lost that role playing element. It no longer was the role playing game. It became a action RPG sort of mixture, but it was no longer a true role playing game at that point.
But it still
Um,
had a lot of jank. Like, I think there are some moments in Fallout 4 where I'm like, I think this is jankier than New Vegas. Like, when the mayor goes to give a speech in Diamond City and everyone does the weird Skywing walk and slowly morphs into a chair so he can give, like, a 30-second speech, and they all morph back out of the chair, and it's just like, what the hell am I watching?
no, I mean, of course, like you know, corners have to be cut. There's always deadlines. I would never look at developers as lazy or anything, or it's just more of like how much time they had. Um, but like I don't know. I think yeah, like purposeful jank is bad. I think just like if you like I don't know, Goat Simulator. I think that game tries to be funny too hard. Like it tries to recreate those janky facets of games that people love, but in a way that like isn't genuine, and people can feel that. Whereas to a game that's like you know like Gary's Mod that's like not meant to be jank, but it just ends up being super jank or something. Uh, like a lot of fun memories can be had because those are your memories. Those are like your spontaneity discoveries. Like those are that's yours. You own that moment. And it may not be reproducible 100% because it's like a bug. So like it's a genuine bug that's like pretty randomized. So I don't know. There's a certain level of you know reaching for the stars and then like ending up with a very broken thing that's very honest and very raw is good. I think when people try to like replicate that, I think that's why Skate 3 was even that popular. Like why it did so well was because it had all those exploits that people could like add to their tool set, and it became more than just a skateboarding game. It became like a way of expression, and like people could play in their own fun ways. Whereas to like now that they're making a new skate game, I wonder if they're gonna like intentionally add those bugs back in, or not.
I know some indie games do that. I don't know. Are you familiar with like MX versus ATV or that whole series?
I
That
don't
dirt
think
bike game.
I've. Oh, those Duper games. No, I have not. I haven't played those. I'm sorry.
If you go far enough over the map and you cross the mountain, there's like an empty field, and if you go straight into it, the game like ragdolls you and blows you back into the center of the map. Like you get hit by like Mach 5 wind and you just go flying. It's the funniest shit. And when I played Downwell, an indie
Exactly.
game, they recreated that where in the lobby, if you go all the way out the mountains and do that, you get blasted back in the center. I'm like, oh, there's like back in the day when the on the PS2. That's cute.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, I don't think it's bad to like call back or like do a little like love letter to a game's bug or something. I think that's fine. But like when you're making a comedy game and that's your method is like slapstick comedy and you're like purposefully trying to, you know, create scripted moments where that happens, it kind of loses the genuineness in my opinion.
I think it's also I got because I used to do theater and I was told that like the root of all comedy is suffering. Some people can disagree with that statement on some types of comedy, but I think it's a rule enough to follow ish. Um, but when you laugh at like I love bad movies because it's like who thought that was a good idea? Why did you put that in? There's like I guess some level of cruelty at laughing at someone's mistake, but if it's an intentional thing, it's like well they put it in because they thought it looked funny. Like there's no punchline anymore. You removed the element of suffering. I would you could argue of the joke.
I wouldn't agree that like I mean, the comedy's there's like a lot of rules to comedy, and I won't like bore anyone with it because I think there's a lot of method. There's a lot of ways to get to something funny without suffering. Let alone there's a lot of ways to make something meaningful or impactful without like you don't have to suffer for your art. I think that's the biggest misconception now, and I really don't think people have to suffer to make good art. But I will say, like Tommy Wiseau, for example, like if I had to like find a case study for that, it would be like his, The Room was a masterpiece because he was trying to make a good movie. And then eventually when he realized that people liked when the movies like were kind of bad in certain ways, like he tried to do that. He tried to replicate that and see if lightning strike twice. But in trying that, he sort of like ruined it for his more recent work. It isn't as good, and so I mean, it is better, which is why it isn't as good. I don't know how to describe that, but like, there's something, it's one of those like petri dishes. Like it's a bacteria in a petri dish. It just didn't have the right environment to like happen again.
I've seen a few cult movies get sequels. Samurai Cop 2 got a sequel and Birdemic got a sequel, and it's like, but the point was the genuineness of the fact that someone thought this was good, but now it's not good and you do it again, and it's the reason I can't stand the Fallout 4 jank is because like New Vegas was a studio under crunch. It's a super old game. But Fallout 4 had the time to be better, and they just didn't try to make it better. They just tried to ride the coattails of what was already there, which is why like the jank of Fallout 4 just makes me cringe, while I genuinely can enjoy, damn, what's the quote that everyone says? Patrolling the Mojave makes you almost wish for a nuclear winter.
Hey, I would never assume the intentions of any developer. I don't think they weren't. Like, I mean, when you say they were trying to make it better or whatever, and they or whatever, like I would never speak to developers' intent.
I'll
just
correct myself. I mean,
you don't have to correct yourself. I mean, I'm just saying. I think it's a slippery slope in terms of, and I'm not trying to be antagonistic towards players, but that's the one thing I hate about people is they feel entitled or they feel like they like know more than the developer themselves without understanding the context behind it. Like I legitimately think like even like with a Sonic movie or whatever, like I worked for the studio that did the visual effects for that, and it's like that wasn't like that wasn't the artist's fault. It was someone higher up. Like we're just doing a job, and we're just fulfilling someone else's creative vision. So like the person that actually makes the model isn't at fault for why Sonic has really gross teeth, or like why the game had the creative decisions it had. It's definitely like they're always going to try to make the game better, and I do try to like assume the best intentions, and then just I don't think unless it was obvious cash grab or like an obvious like there are studios that aren't making the best decisions, but like generally speaking, I think at least studios like that, I don't think that they're trying to ruin their own product. I think they're definitely listening to players and trying to make the best thing they can make, with what time they have. And even if they have almost unlimited time and money, there always is a limit. And people are just trying their best. Like there's always a lot of newfound challenges. I'm not gonna. They were trying something new. It didn't work out. They'll probably go back to actual dialogue options. That's sort of like different things like that. I'm not gonna. I mean, they improved it in some ways. They step back in others. It's just like there's so many moving parts.
No, I agree. I had meant more like the like on the studio level, where like some of the higher ups like Bethesda made some calls that were, and you can kind of see that with the development cycle of like Fallout 76. I meant it more like that than the devs themselves, because I too also really hate when people do that, like when they say the devs are lazy. That's the one that always gets me, because I'm like, the devs are usually paid pretty garbage. Like, you don't work 3 or 4 years on a game on that kind of
12 hours a day, yeah, just to like
like if you're lazy,
yeah.
you get into a different career. Like if you're lazy,
like if you really
you
yeah.
do something else.
If I was lazy, I would just get a software job. I wouldn't, and I would just like do my job real quick, and then spend the rest of the time, salary wise, just like playing video games or something, or just chilling. Like there's easier jobs to get paid way more for what skills you have in games.
Yeah, I agree 100% on that. And I feel sometimes bad for devs when like they get shaded, especially when they tried new things and it didn't work out. Um, like some people I saw were throwing shade at like some of the RuneScape devs that because they put out this new update, and some things worked and some things really didn't. But you know what? I'll take didn't work over just bland any time. Like there's like I like seeing the scars on RuneScape of like bad design decisions sometimes. Where I'm like, hey, they tried. And you know what? The voice acting in Fallout 4, as much as they butchered the fucking dialogue tree, I think the voice acting's fantastic. I just think it was
Yeah,
a bad
acting's great.
idea.
I mean, I think people have learned lessons like, oh, in Oblivion, the actors all got sides. They didn't get like any actual in order linearly like what the dialogue would proceed or follow or like what the context was. Like they just got random lines out of context and they had to read them. That's why the the dialogue was so disjointed. And so they learned their lesson and then they fixed that in Fallout 4 and the future sort of like bigger releases to sort of have more natural flowing performances.
But it's also
But
like
that takes a longer
really
time too to prepare.
it's really hard because like if you have a tree where there's like seven different options and you have to do something like that for hundreds of characters, at some point someone's hello should be more aggressive, but it's just not going to happen. It's just unfeasible at a certain scale. You get problems. Um
Yeah, I'm surprised like games like Disco Elysium even exist.
I need to play
Because
that
that
game
game
so bad.
has like over maybe a million lines of recorded dialogue, and I'm not exaggerating. That's not a hyperbole. It literally has over a million lines of dialogue, and it's like it's insane the level amount. Like you could have probably 10 options for dialogue for certain like interactions, and it all branches very beautifully. But like it's the amount of work that goes into that, and I'm surprised I even was able to fit on a computer like compression wise with the audio because it's like it's so much. It's all voiced. Like what an undertaking. It's insane. So any game that has like mini games, like that's like a multi-genre type game, like a action RPG or whatever, like they're not just making one game; they're making like five. So of course, it's not going to be the best at one thing. And that's there's going to have to be good sessions somewhere.
Yeah, there's always going to be something that's messed up. Something that really bothers me is especially when they release like broken games, because I'm like, you guys should have held this back and fixed it. Because if I have to take the time and make my game work and obsess over really stupid things, and I'm paying $60, I expect you guys to do the same. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to defend that so much. I mean, definitely it's one of those your game should be playable at the very least. Like it should be like there's no game breaking bugs by launch day. Um and I think that's sort of one thing I would and things happens, things slip through the cracks like especially indies, we don't have the budget to really like or time or resources to have people play test all the time. Most of us just like develop in isolation in sort of a vacuum and then release the game and then, hope it people play it. But for bigger games, they have like actual QA teams and stuff, and they do amazing work QA, like they really do. But even if they report a ticket, like it may not get fixed. They may not have time in terms of like crunch or like the deadline.
or I've heard they get
And it's
ignored.
yeah, and it's like and it's really the publisher's fault. But then again, the publisher doesn't care about um, like the developers. It really cares about the bottom line. So you're not they're running a business. They're not really there for like the players or anything. Um, so I would blame publishers before you blame developers or studios.
That's kind of how I try, but sometimes language gets flubbed sometimes, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's like games are such a like black box of like people don't really talk about how they're made or like the actual politics behind it or like even like how certain studios have relationships with certain publishers. So like you can get exceptions in terms of like they'll look the other way for cert. And cert is like this process where like it's certification. They have to like go over every little single thing in terms of like menus being the right, that terminology in terms of like they calling joysticks rather than like thumb pads or whatever. Like every little thing that you could possibly think of, like in terms of like being usable, being bug free. The console people like actually judge you on that, and then it's back and forth dialogue until you've had it fixed. And so for some like actual publishers, they'll have an existing relationship where it'll just be like, hey, trust me, it'll be fixed by the time we have launch day, and they'll be like, okay, and so they don't actually look at it. And so I think that's when things happen.
See, I hadn't even considered that was a possibility. Now I feel bad for the publishers sometimes because who knows? They'd be like, you said it'd be done, John, and it's not."
No, I mean the publishers are the ones that are like, look the other way. It'll be done, fixed by the time it gets to your console, and then Sony is like, okay. So it's like that's when things happen. Not necessarily like the developers like ignoring certain bugs because they just are too lazy to fix them or like they don't have the time. It's more of like a it's just a shitty situation all around for a lot of people.
That's fair. So we're cutting it close to the end. I figured for the last segment, we could just talk about games that we're playing and if they are influencing anything that you're currently working on. So,
Yeah, I haven't played really anything lately. I think the more I mean, I know it sounds terrible, but like once you sort of like make games, the game dev, or like VFX, you're sort of like or whatever like creative industry where you make things that people consume en masse. You stop consuming things as much, like because you can't really enjoy them as much. Like it's hard for me to enjoy a game mostly nowadays because I can't play it just for my own sake of enjoyment. I'm always constantly like breaking it apart and understanding how it works. And I can't like stop myself from doing that. And so that's kind of awful. It's like almost like that's like the curse. Like that's like the secret like deal with the devil or whatever. It's like, aha, you didn't think about that, did you? Um, it's the double edged, double sided sword of making things you can't engage with them in the same way anymore. Or it's very hard to. So I haven't like played a whole lot of games recently. But I do watch a lot of Korean dramas. I watch a lot of movies, and occasionally read comics and stuff. But obviously, like I watched RRR recently, and then Turning Woo. So yeah.
Anything you've been consuming that you has influenced how you do games because of that the media, the way it interacts together? Or any new soundtracks, I would argue. Anything new you're listening to that you're like, that'd make a sick game.
Uh, not really too recently. But I will say I think lately what's been influencing me the most is just like I don't know. I think my friends just like talking to my friends, like I don't know, just chatting, living life. Like I know that sounds like a very fake answer, but like I think there's more like you can't make interesting art if you're only being informed by other art. You can't make something really too fresh. I mean, of course you can, but like you have to live life outside of just consuming other things and regurgitating them out in dismingled forms. Like there's more to art than that. And so lately, like what I think what's been informing me is just like my late night conversations with my friends in China. That's been great. I have been taking a lot of like language lessons to be able to like hopefully talk with them in Mandarin as well someday, and that's been a very like eye-opening experience like culturally. Learning Mandarin and stuff like every day of the week for like an hour. And I don't know, just like little things like that. Like I don't know, just like living life, hanging out with your uncle or something. Like just like random life experiences. I think are more inspirational to me than actual media that I consume.
That's I that's a great answer. There's one game I've always wanted to make because of the last experience I had at my work, and if it wasn't for the people I interacted with, I'd never be inspired to make it. Unfortunately, I don't have the skills to make it, but one day I hope to.
No, I think eventually your skills will match your tastes, and then you can really do something amazing. But until then, make a lot of trash games. I sure did, and I consider Griptape one of them.
I will admit the controls are clunky to get used to, but once you kind of get past that wall and you just kind of vibe around, it's just I liked what you created. I loved exploring and seeing like I wonder what crazy thought is about to be thrown at me and I'm gonna have to be like, damn.
Yeah, it was a fun thing to make. I think if you're not enjoying the process of making something, then you shouldn't be making it unless you're getting paid, in which case it doesn't matter. But
I don't know. I did IT automate like software automation for a little bit, and it's like, God, give me something creative. I don't want to just do this for 8 hours, no matter the pay. This is soul crushing. Give me garbage pay if it means I get to be creative. Please, Lord, anyone.
yeah, I mean, and what is creativity? Like I worked on a movie recently. I can't really say what it is, but like I recently worked on a movie, and that was my last job, and like there wasn't a whole lot of room for creativity. Like we were basically just tools for someone else's creativity. Um, and that does, and there's a lot of stress and pressure for that. But like it, there was no self-expression or ownership. And so I don't know. Like even though you're doing creative quote unquote work, you're really not. So I think there's a certain level of like, what is creative work? Where can you find creativity in your day to day life? Where can you find ownership, agency? Where can you find spontaneity?
Do you
Yeah,
feel better having worked on someone's project and made it come to life and knowing that there's a project that gets made versus something like, a standard software job where you're just working for a soulless company to make a product that you don't even know is going to make it?
like make it as in be released or like.
Yeah, or like just I don't know, like
I
I
mean,
was just running software to test like a website for a company and finding bugs, but I never saw any of them. Like I was basically the QA guy that was running shit that wasn't being made. Mostly because it was an internship. He was doing it so I had something to do. God bless his soul, but it was a little frustrating to be like, "Here's this bug fix. It never gets made." Okay, I see.
well, I mean, it's the narrative you convey to yourself, right? Like, do you see yourself as just the guy who's running a program or something or doing basic QC? Or do you see yourself as the last line of defense, the goalie, the one who makes sure that, like, this goes swimmingly. I am an important cog of the machine. Without me, all disaster may befall this project. Like what narrative do you tell yourself when you go to work every day is what informs how you feel about that work. And I think that's very important to think about. What is your attitude to the work that you bring, and how can you make it fulfilling for yourself? But then again, there are things that like I have moral gripes with. Like I used to work for a mobile studio, and I stopped working there, even though I was invited back because it was like I had moral gripes with how they designed things, and how game design was a science rather than an art, and how people were taking advantage of, psychologically speaking, uh, to make money, and I didn't feel comfortable with that. I didn't want any part of it.
That's I every job I try to work because I hate waking up in the morning. I always try to stop myself from saying I hate this job because the minute I start doing that, I actually hate the job. So I always try to frame it in a better light, which is really good advice I think that you gave for anyone that's gonna be listening to this. I didn't really like because my last job I worked with kids and I really do not like kids. But you know what? Trying to come in every day and be like, I want to try to better these kids' lives and leave them with something interesting, at least to go home and talk about, always got me through. No matter how loud they were. Oh my God, children are loud.
Yeah, no, I once had a job with kids and I only lasted a day. I quit. That was the only job I quit. So I get that.
How bad was
I
it
do
that
get
it
that.
made you quit on the spot?
Uh, yeah, fuck. They try to blacklist me and like send awful like lies to my references. But
What?
that summer camp that was it ID Tech camp,
Yeah, I
where
think I've
they say, oh,
heard
you
of.
can learn how to make a game in over summer or something. Uh, I was supposed to be a counselor, so and they needed the last minute like someone to replace someone else who probably had quit. And so they said I would be teaching like probably teenagers and doing like Unity stuff or Java stuff. So I was like great. So I like prepared Java. I was like kind of cramming studying and sort of I could actually teach these kids something. And then I get there and they're like actually you're gonna be teaching the young group, and like they weren't even potty trained.
Wait, how do you
And like
teach them non-potty trained people game design at all?
yeah, and so like, and then the thing about it is, I was like, great. Well, like, can I teach them like tools that I know? And they're like, no, you're gonna teach them this like random. It wasn't Scratch. It wasn't. It was something else, and it was like really broken. And I was like, couldn't we teach them like Game Maker or something like at least I am familiar with? And they were like, no. And I was like, how do they expect me to teach something that I have never used before in a room of a bunch of like toddlers? And they can't even. You have to go. I have to like escort them to the restroom basically, but I can't leave them all by themselves. So it was like I was left in a lot of possible sort of like you know understaffed situations where I couldn't like leave them by themselves, but I also couldn't like have them go to the restroom by themselves. It was just weird things, and I think it was almost dehumanizing because like I couldn't even use my real name. Like I had to have a
Really?
nickname, and I don't know. Like there were I don't know, and it was just like I had a breakdown like at lunch, and like I've never had that like sort of experience before, but it was like it felt like everyone had given up. All the other counselors just did not give a shit about the kids. And like it was just babysitting, glorified babysitting for rich people's kids. And like I think kids go who had any interest in game design who went there would probably have lost it by the end of the time being there. And it's sad. Like it's a sad place. So like I whenever I go places when I show games like, games or whatever to like kids at like expos and stuff and demo and there's like families like who are interested in that. I'm like, don't like if you really want your kid to be interested in like do this as a passion and like have it inform their interest, like even like motivate them to like want to learn geometry and math and algebra to like better like have application to their games, like if they're able to like actually love STEM because they found an artistic outlet that makes them want to do it. Like have them discover it for themselves. Like nudge them maybe, but like let them do it for themselves. Don't bring them to a camp. It's a trap, and it's also a lie. Like you cannot teach someone game design in 2 weeks. Um, like, I mean, I don't know. It's ugh.
I mean, I had some negative experiences just because kids are kids, and I was teaching a lot of lower income kids, and so sometimes their real life would bleed in. But that I had nothing like that. Holy shit, that's horrific.
Well, the kids aren't the problem ever. I mean, like kids are again. It's like there are no bad dogs. There are only bad masters, right? There's no bad
Yeah,
kids. There's only like bad circumstances. There's bad parents or whatever. Like it's not, and they're not bad parents. It's just everyone's trying their best, but it's like when it comes to like kids and stuff, like you're right. It's you want to like at least whatever impact you have on them, even if it was for the day that you worked there and quit. But like whatever time you had with them, you at least want to imprint something on them that like hopefully sparks something in them. Like that's the most you can hope for. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know where I was going with this, but
I don't know. I thought it
yeah.
was interesting, and hopefully the whoever listens to it will get a kick out of it because that shit's hilarious.
Yeah, don't send your kids to ID Tech camps. It's a scam. Just and I don't mean to like. I'm not even gonna self plug my. Like, hey, I wrote a free book. Like, no, I'm not gonna do that. But like legitimately, there's a bunch of free resources out there. Like, just have your kid YouTube stuff. Like, figure it out. Like, and that would be infinitely more interesting to them than like going to a summer camp, where they will like not be allowed to play certain games or like any games except for two games, or like they have to like follow a very rigid like I don't know thing like plan or something, and it's like I don't know. Basically, it's like prison, but you can play some video games. Like I don't know. It's like I yeah. Don't send your kids to that camp.
That's okay. That's the final word of the podcast. Don't send your kids to IDE camp, and I pray to God they don't see the podcast. So well, thank you, Stephen Harmon. Is there any place that you want to plug? Any of your sites or anything?
um, I guess the only thing I want to plug is you know there's a really great pizza place in LA. And I'm gonna Google the address real quick. And I just want to plug that place. Uh, sorry, give me one moment.
I wish I could
Uh,
record my face. It's just not what I was expecting to be plugged.
Okay, so I'm Google Mapsing this. Where is this? Apologies.
I thought it'd be a website. No, it's a pizza site.
Pizza Napolita at 541 South Spring Street, Los Angeles, California. Uh, Napolita. Pizza Napolita is really good pizza. Um, yeah.
All right, you've heard it here first. Go get some pizza. I will link his website in the description below, and I guess I will also link the pizza site down below. Thank you for listening. Enjoy the next episode.